Com 230. I'm interrupting our regularly scheduled programming to tell you a little bit about the upcoming candidate dossiers, which are a group project that we're going to finish out the semester with. So the first thing that I want to bring your attention to is that all slides are due Wednesday, May 13th at 8:30 a.m. This goes for groups that are presenting on Wednesday, and this goes for groups that are presenting on Friday. Everyone's are due on Wednesday, May 13th at 8:30 a.m. You are going to work with the discussion group that you've had assigned to you all semester, and the presentations will happen synchronously via Google Meet. Since everyone's sending me their slides ahead of time, I'm going to be the slide master, and I will combine everyone's stuff into a giant presentation and click through. Every group gets 15 minutes to present. One other note, the presentations are happening during our regular 75-minute class periods, so that means the 8:30 a.m. section is meeting at 8:30 Central Time, and the other class, section 2, will be meeting at 9:55 a.m. on these 2 days. So Wednesday, May 13th, we have teams awesome, brilliant, charismatic, and dynamic. And Friday, May 15th, we have teams effervescent, fantastic, and great. And you'll see here each team has already been assigned a politician to write about. So please refer to this list here, find the team that you're part of, and know that this is the politician that you're writing about. We're writing about these folks because of the prevalence of media framing that we saw during the Democratic primaries. And of course, President Trump is obviously running for re-election in November of this year. So he's in there too. But I do want to note that if this were a different year with more Republican competitors, you'd see more Republicans on this ticket. So I'm not giving preference, except that it's, well, that's what 2020 looks like. So here's the assignment overview. You are tasked with preparing a document that gives your classmates a clear idea of who your assigned candidate is, what they stand for, and how they use political communication. I also want to make sure that you're demonstrating that you know what a lot of the course concepts mean and how to use them intelligently in a conversation. Some of this assignment also has to do with basic research skills and reference skills. So are you able to use a reference? Can you use in-text citations? Can you use MLA formatting? Consider this an extension of your FYI class in that regard. Ask me for help if you don't know how to do something. If I've burned you in the past for MLA stuff, I'm so happy to help you. Come to the office hours or make an appointment with me. We'll get you on track. Finally, this assignment is intended to help you demonstrate your ability to collaborate. And collaboration at a distance feels weird, and I understand that. But some of it is time management. Some of it is assignment balancing, so working together as a group to make sure that everyone is doing an even and fair amount of work. Some of that is editing one another's slides, so figuring out a kind and generous way to help someone else clarify what they have on their slides. It's conspicuous that people haven't been doing that on the discussion leader slides, and so this is the assignment where you can take it to the next level and help your group members, because while you each get an individual grade, the overall quality of the presentation does matter each individual's grade. It does affect each individual's grade. Discussion and clarity are also key factors here. So there won't be a Q&A. Don't put a questions slide at the end of your presentation, but your ability to carry on about these topics in a conversational way, in a clear way, using synthesis and overview, so distilling information down to the clearest, most important part, all of that is something that I want you to practice here too. In terms of the content of the slides, there's also a Google Doc that has literally all of this information in it, so you can refer to that too. But for those of you who want me to talk you through it or who prefer receiving this information in this slide format, here we go. So what does your presentation need to contain? It's a lot. First, I need some context. So we should get some introduction about who the political figure is. What is information that's relevant about their background, particularly with regard to obstacles they might face when running for election. I want to know what other political offices this person has held before running for election. If so, which one, for how long they've held that, what kind of experience do they have, what kind of track record do they have. This doesn't need to be a biography. It needs to be a snapshot view of what voters care about. I also want to know if this person is still running for office. If not, when did they leave the presidential race? Are they still running for Senate? What's going on there? So what's their political career doing now that it's May, compared to what it was doing a few months ago during an earlier phase in the Democratic primaries or before the pandemic? You're going to notice a theme running across all of these slides, which is include an MLA in-text citation for the sources that helped you answer these questions. So I'm anticipating some news sources from a fairly middle-of-the-road, reputable, fact-based journalism source here. So I'm also grading you for the quality of the sources that you choose. Something else that I want to know is agenda setting. So this might be a throwback to Medhurst's content, might be a little bit familiar to you. But I want you to tell us what items this politician wants on the agenda. So what is this person's policy platform? What are they best known for? And how do you know that they're known for it? So what are 3 or 4 of the big issues that this candidate likes to associate themselves with? Include an MLA in-text citation for the sources that helped answer this question. I also want to know how this politician and their team happens to frame those issues that appeared in the previous slide. So it's okay with me if in your presentation some of these categories end up duplicating information. So if we know what the main issues are, we will therefore know how the candidate frames those things. But when you take us through your slides, make sure that you signpost specifically what's going on. So if you're double dipping and putting agenda setting and issue framing in the same breath, make sure that you indicate you are fulfilling all of the assignment guidelines. So issue framing and definition, what are 2 major frames this person likes to say or often has associated with their platform? This would be a turn of phrase like, well, Trump's use of crooked Hillary, for example, would have been a distinct frame that he was known for at the time when he was running for president the first time, well, in 2016. What do the frames do for the candidate? So this is looking for more of a meta-analysis from you. What is the point of the candidate framing things this way? So talk us through what you think the strategy is, and where did you see the frames? Include a citation. I also want you to say whether or not you think the frames were effective, and you can talk about Lakoff or Medhurst when you say why or why not these frames are doing good work for the candidate. And cite whoever you talk about. Rhetorical style is something else that I'm interested in, and there are a lot of ways to get at analyzing a candidate's rhetorical style. But I do want you to make sure that you give us a little representative snippet of this person's public speaking presence. So this might look like a slide with a brief quotation from a speech that the person gave. Here, please do not quote advertisements. Instead, I want the kind of performance that the candidate has a little bit less control over. So a speech that they give, a stump speech, a debate performance, these are the kinds of things that I want to see. I don't want to see a quote from a prepackaged advertisement. I do want you to tell me where you found whatever public speaking example you quote, and really just a brief quote that you think is illustrative of what this person usually says when they're interviewed or in a debate or doing a stump speech. Why do you think that this example is a good representation of what this person has to say in public? Again, this is kind of meta-analysis. Why did you pick that quote? What is it doing? How is that a good illustration of what the candidate does? I also want you to tell us some of the distinguishing features of this person's verbal style. So if they point a lot, or if they're often doing any particular gestures alongside what they say, that's something that I'm interested in here. And also, just in general, what do we know them for? Are they aggressive? Are they gentle? What kind of tone do they take when they speak in public? Media presence and video style is such a big category that I've actually broken up into 2 slides. So first I want to know, what is this person doing on social media in general? Give us a taste of what they're like online, on TV, and what other kind of promotional materials they use to influence voters. So provide and describe 2 examples of what this person does to try and encourage other people to vote for them. What's their publicity campaign, essentially? How do they advertise themselves? We can think about, yes, television appearances, social media posts, advertisements. promotional materials, if they've associated their campaign with a particular color or a beanie or some other kind of thing. But like, what's their brand and how do they share their brand? That's part of this. And then I want someone to walk us through video style using the 3 terms that Cade and Johnston give us in the reading, with an in-text citation to Cade and Johnston and wherever else you're getting your information from. So focus on aspects we don't already know elsewhere in the presentation and talk us through how the candidate uses the media environment to their advantage during the selection cycle. Character construction. Of course, all of these parts are interconnected, but I want to know what persona this candidate promotes for themselves. Are they trying to be parent-like? Are they trying to be a tough cookie? What kind of persona in your interpretation does this candidate project? How and why? And then what are the obstacles the candidate faces towards projecting this persona? This dovetails really nicely with biography. It could be a nice fit to have the same person giving us the brief biography overview, also giving us how the candidate manipulates their biography for the sake of giving off a particular tone. Again, include a citation to a mainstream news outlet that discusses some of the obstacles the candidate faces. And then this last part I'd like to see all group members involved in to some extent, because I want to see, if you were a think tank, what advice would you give this politician about running for office? And of course, if you really hate the candidate that your group has been assigned, your advice might be really, don't run for office. But you don't do that. Instead, you say, well, here's how they could improve their public perception. Here's how they could adapt to their audience better. So I want this, again, meta-analysis, your as objective as possible take on what would help this candidate succeed if you were interested in helping them succeed. So what could they do? Talk about character construction, talk about verbal style, and talk about media presence. So who should the candidate project? What personality should they project? What kind of language and framing should they use? And should they make any changes to their media presence? And if so, what would those changes look like? Of course, you should have a beautiful works cited page at the end of this where every in-text citation is married perfectly to a lovely, wonderfully formatted entry on the works cited page. You could have multiple slides for the works cited page if you get lengthy there. I'm expecting bare minimum 4 high-quality news sources and at least 2 references to course readings, although you can see that I've given you hints throughout these slides about course readings that should show up. Only include entries in the works cited section that you actually cited. Don't put stuff in the works cited section that you didn't cite. Don't forget to put stuff that you did cite in the works cited section. And do label each slide with the name of the group member who finished that slide, because that helps me give grades that are a little bit more representative of the work that individuals put in.